This is the Earth Science Classroom. Thank you for joining me on this hike up this Pennsylvania mountain called Mount Minsi. Now this is on the PA side, on the New Jersey side, across the Delaware River is Mount Tammany. I have climbed Mount Tammany in the past 2 years and it was a fantastic hike, some great views and a great day, and I hope this will be the same for Mount Minsi on the other side. Now the two peaks are about 1 mile apart from each other. As you see, it is the summer and it is this beautiful forest covering both Mount Minsi here on the right and curved to the left on the highway. This is Route 80. You'll see Mount Tammany in the shot right now on the left. Amazing Delaware Water Gap. We're going to do a 4.8 mile loop for the hike today from the parking lot all the way up to Mount Minsi Summit. That is around 1,461 feet elevation, which means a elevation gain of 1,335 feet today for the hike. Now, Mount Minsi is part of the Appalachian Trail, which goes all the way from New England all the way down into the southern states and the south of America to North Carolina and beyond into Georgia. And this particular mountain, Mount Minsi, is part of the Blue Mountain Range. It is a ridge in the Appalachian Mountains, and it is absolutely stunning. This is the Earth Science Classroom. This is the Trailhead Parking Lot where you start your hike for Mount Minsi. It is easily signposted off Route 80, both east and west. However, it is on a small side, so be careful not to basically hike when it's a beautiful day in the summer. On a weekend, perhaps it'll be too crowded, but we're doing this on a midweek day and still pretty warm in the summer, and it's going to be a humid, hot hike. Just entering off the parking lot to the left, the trailhead, the start of the hike, the 4.8 mile loop, and just going past the signpost telling you that you're on the Appalachian Trail and to bring the necessary equipment with you on the hike because today it is going to be very warm and very humid. Cool. A couple of 100 yards into the trail, you get the first site, the first attraction on this hike, which is Lake Lenape, and it opens up into this beautiful lake with lily pads and all kinds of animals and birds and noises, and it's just a beautiful open area to kind of like look at and enjoy before you start making the hike up to the peak of Mount Minsi. When you leave Lake Lenape, you're actually on Lake Road, which is this larger trail going up to the summit. This is what we're going to take back on our way back to the parking lot, but it's kind of wide and nice and gentle at this point in the hike. This hike starts out a lot more gentle and relaxed compared to the neighboring Mount Tammany that kind of starts with a steeper gradient from the very beginning. And this hike really is nice for the first half a mile. And again, we're still on Lake Road moving up towards the summit of the mountain. On the left up here, about half a mile into the hike, we're going to turn left onto the Appalachian National Scenic Trail, which is marked or trailblazed by these white rectangles. This is Council Rock, again a little bit further up, the first chance to really look over the Delaware River and the Water Gap, and you see the highway there and Mount Tammany. Now this is the part of the hike that got interesting because it started to turn into this really thick forest of rhododendron plants on either side of the trail. As you see, the trail gets narrow. It gets steeper with an increased gradient and becomes rougher with all these exposed tree roots and exposed bedrock, which is mostly going to be the gray conglomerate and sandstone. We'll get more onto the geology as we get into this hike. As we're heading up the trail, it gets narrow and windy. These beautiful rhododendron plants everywhere, the exposed routes get a little tricky sometimes, so you got to watch your feet as you're moving through. Of course, these rocks as well play a little issue with just the speed of the hike. And it also rained about half an hour before we got to the mountain, so it's a little slippery in parts. But again, just a gorgeous kind of narrow, winding trail. As you make your way up this beautiful trail, it is trailblazed very well. So every couple of 100 feet, you get either a tree or you get a rock that's obviously in your path with the white rectangle showing you the correct trail. And you go in the right direction, of course, but it's just a fantastically well-maintained trail. There are times on this hike and trail where you think you're not in New Jersey or Pennsylvania anymore, but in some tropical, beautiful island with the rhododendrons and the kind of environment you're in with this lush green forest. And then you come to this beautiful little Eureka Creek that you have to cross over. Oh, there's a trail. Hi. This is Lookout Rock for obvious reasons. You get a nice view of Route 80, the Delaware River, and Mount Tammany in the background, and you're a little over half the way up. Now onto some geology, and this mountain as part of the Appalachian mountain range was formed through two orogenies. The first was Taconic about 440 million years ago. The next was the Alleghenian about 300 million years ago, which is to do with the formation of Pangea with North America and Africa and Europe smashing together, forming these beautiful mountain ranges. Now, the main rocks are part of what's called the Shoungunk Formation, which is a sedimentary formation or layers of rock that have been folded and pushed together and pushed up. So an ancient riverbed and shallow sea was there, and then basically they were pushed together through tectonic forces and pushed up in orogenies to form these beautiful mountains. And the exposed sedimentary rock is both gray conglomerate and sandstone. Now, both of these are high in quartz, and you get a lot of quartzite, which is a little bit like metamorphic rock, which is highly resistant to erosion, thus keeping these mountains where they are and not being eroded. And you get these areas of open sandstone conglomerate due to the vegetation parting, or basically going away, and this beautiful rock is exposed, telling a story of how this mountain came to be and what's happened over the best part of 500 million years. As we continue on the trail, it goes from these exposed open areas where you see the bedrock and the sandstone conglomerate and the quartzite, and then back into these very narrow, very kind of claustrophobic type tunnels of beautiful rhododendron plants. Nice little glacial erratic just hanging out on the side of the trail, and a lot of the sediment on the surface is mostly glacial till. The glacial erratic just reminds us that this area of New Jersey and Pennsylvania was around the terminus of the last glaciation about 20,000 years ago, and how this impacted the geology and also the topography.
here.
At this point in the hike, we're about 150 feet from the summit and kind of splits off. And on the left, we have the Appalachian Trail, which goes all the way down to Georgia in that direction. And the other way is up to the summit of Mount Minsi. So to the right is Mount Minsi and to the left is Georgia on the Appalachian Trail. Pretty awesome to hike that. If you have hiked the Appalachian Trail or any part of it, please leave me a comment and tell me how amazing it was and what was your favorite part. About 2.4 miles in on the hike, we get to the summit of Mount Minsi, and here you have a radio tower, which is kind of like an eyesore, but this is the top, the summit, and the elevation is about 1,461 feet, give or take. Once you reach the summit and you pass the radio tower, you can walk down the trail about 100 feet, and there's a small left kind of smaller trail you can access, and right there about 20 feet in front of you is called the Vista. This is a bunch of rocks and there's a little opening between the trees, and today we were lucky because it's a beautiful sunny day and it's a clear view across the valley from Mount Minsi, and you get this beautiful view. On the left is New Jersey and on the right is Pennsylvania, and that river is the Delaware. Beautiful, beautiful view. So on the way down from the summit of Mount Minsi, you can take the fire road on the left-hand side of the Appalachian Trail, and it takes you down to this beautiful area about halfway down, which is exposed, open area of bedrock they call Table Rock. And you kind of walk over this area, and on the right would be the access to the fire road again, and then down to the left-hand side of this exposed area, you can get the unmarked trail again and pick it up and head down the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The last part of the hike, the trail actually reconnects in the big loop at Lake Lenape, and on the other side this time, you can go left or right around the outside of this lake, and it's gorgeous just to finish off the hike. This is the Earth Science Classroom. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please subscribe, like, and share. And if you want more content and videos on Earth Science, please check out my channel.